All right, everyone. It's been a while, but I hope you're having a wonderful day. Better day than I'm fucking having because I've recorded this video twice now, fucking twice, and both times my audio has gotten corrupted or the fucking webcam just decided to freeze halfway through. Maybe it's because my Windows and fucking PC needed an update. I don't know, fucking whatever the fuck, but let's just hope that this time works and God doesn't hate me this time around. So let's go ahead and roll the dice on this one. Hope it works. But anyway, why are you here? Why are you here? We're going to be doing Back for Blood School. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be doing some tips, tricks, and hidden mechanics slash card synergies. So this is going to have a little bit of something for everyone. Hopefully everyone can get something from this video, beginners and experienced players alike. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's switch myself over to the game. There we go. So my first tip, my very first tip, and I want to hammer this fucking point down. If you're a new player and you're thinking about playing Doc, giving Doc a try, giving Doc an old fucking fun bagging around, please, for the love of God, by the end of the level, use her free heal. Let me move my happy ass away so you can see what her character does. I can understand if you are a newer player and you don't exactly know, every cleaner's fucking passive and whatnot. But if you're playing Doc, please, by the end of the level, use her free heal because her free heal, let's just take a look at it real quick. Doc can heal each teammate for 25 health once per level. This is essentially just a free bandage that you walk up to a player, hold down, oh, excuse me, fucking orange sweet and sour chicken, nice. You just hold down the interact button, whatever that is on whatever platform you're playing on, and you will heal that teammate for 25 health. This is a use it or lose it kind of deal. So by the end of the level, you're in the safe room. Don't close the door yet. Use this free heal and patch up your team members before the next level because you're going to get all three of those uses right back. So, and this plays into how you build Doc as a character. So it's extremely important to use her free heal. So just take that home. If you're playing as Doc, make sure to please, for the love of God, even if you're a melee Doc, goddamn, even if you're fucking inbred trash like that and you're playing a melee Doc, please use her free heal because I can't tell you the amount of times I've went into quick play and a Doc just refuses to use her heal on anybody and it fucking drives me insane. So that is tip number one. Tip number two that I'm going to give you guys is please try, especially on the higher difficulties, to differentiate what ammo type you're using. So to explain that, there's many weapons in the game that use different types of ammo. So we have basic bitch assault rifles that use assault rifle ammo, shotguns, use shotgun obviously, SMGs use smaller caliber rounds, the same that most of the sidearms use, and then we have sniper rounds. So those are the four ammo archetypes. Please do your best to try to each member of your team use a different weapon because the worst thing that you could possibly do, especially on the higher difficulties, is everybody running assault rifle or everybody running SMG or most of the team running shotgun. Because shotgun is one of the hardest ammo types to, excuse me, to sustain. That's one of the worst things that you can do on higher difficulties because ammo is a lot less plentiful. Your max ammo is, I think, your max ammo is also reduced. You don't get as much ammo in the safe room, and on No Hope, I don't think you get any replenishment. So ammo sustain is even more important. And going through the level, you might come into a situation where all three of you or all four of you run out of ammo because you fucking are running the same ammo type. And then next thing you know, a bruiser comes in the fucking room. You guys don't have enough ammo to take care of him. And then he face fucks all of you with his goddamn gigantic arm. So don't do that. Try to spread out your ammo types. So maybe the DPS of the group is going to run a shotgun with lots of stopping power. And then maybe the medic of the group can run an SMG for more movement speed, be a little bit more nimble because their main job isn't damage. So that's a tip that I would give to you guys. It's less important on lower difficulties, obviously, because, and especially if you have the bots, if you're just running offline mode, this isn't an issue as much because the bots just drop you whatever ammo you're using. But on online play, please guys, try to get in the habit of using different weapon types and communicate with your team which weapon you're using. All right, guys, that's kind of springboards us into tip number three, which is going to be try your best to uh, find yourself into a specific role and try not to fall into the trap of trying to build a deck that's a jack of all trades. So what I mean is, don't try to build a deck unless you're like playing on recruit, and then it doesn't really matter, with a little mix of movement speed, a little mix of health, damage, healing, and ammo sustain, damage resistance, whatever. You're trying to be a little bit of everything, right? But you end up becoming a master of none. So if you're trying to build, I don't know, 5 of your cards health, 5 of your cards movement speed, and then the last 5 of your cards a little bit of healing efficiency and ammo sustain, it's not really going to benefit you in a team-oriented setting. Because what you want to do is let's first of all, why is that a bad thing? Because think about it, in higher difficulties, resources are a lot more scarce, especially pipe bombs and bandages and first aid materials and toolkits. Second of all, you need to be able to specialize in certain roles. Because if everybody is playing a damage character, or if everybody is playing a healer or a tank, you're not going to have a good time. There's certain threats that you won't be able to react to, and there's certain resources that you will not be able to take advantage of, like tool rooms. So if everyone's DPS, you're fucked out of the tool rooms. And if everyone's DPS, you don't have any healing. If everyone's a healer, you can't kill shit. You see the problem? Also, it comes down to item utilization. Like, are you using your items as effectively as possible? So you have a team, and each teammate, before they leave the safe room, buys a thing of pain meds or bandages. Now, what they could do is use it on themselves, but they're limited to the healing potential of their own deck. So if everybody's running EMT bag and antibiotic ointment, you're going to get only a fraction of the healing as if you had a doc on your team with the added benefit of healing resistance, or not healing resistance, healing efficiency that she gets as part of her passive. So Doc is officially the best healer in the whole game. What you want to do is, let me get out of here. You want to have a whole build centered around healing. This is my Doc build that I use for every game mode. It's pretty much plug and play. My Doc build has a lot of healing efficiency and trauma healing. So what you want to do is you want to put all your resources into the best people that are able to utilize it. So healing items, instead of the DPS using it on themselves, that's a huge waste of healing potential. What you do is you drop those pain meds and say, hey, Doc, can you use these pain meds on me? There you go. The Doc heals you back up. You get a bunch of temporary health. You get a bunch of healing efficiency, a bunch of trauma healed. You're good to go. That's way more useful than if you were to use it on yourself. Now, the same goes for offensive people. Let's say you're running a Hoffman, all right? You're running a Hoffman on your team that takes advantage of fire in the hole and pinata, all right? So every time they throw a pipe bomb, there's a really good chance that because of Hoffman's kit, let's go take a look at Hoffman real quick. His built-in passive is whenever he kills a Ridden, there's a chance to drop ammo or an offensive accessory. That synergizes very well with a pipe bomb explosive kind of play style, right? So instead of you using the pipe bomb, which you could, you know, if you're in a bad situation, but if you find a pipe bomb in the world, the best thing you can do is give that pipe bomb to Hoffman, all right? So, because he has a greater chance of spawning items. I'm not going to spend too much time on this point already. I've already spent like 3 minutes talking about this. So, try to find a role, whether it be damage, healing, tanking, or group utility with lots of group buffs and able to open up the tool rooms, and try to stick to that role. Try to avoid being a jack of all trades, because then you end up being a master of none. All right, so the topic of having different roles kind of, you know, bleeds over into my next point, tip number 4. And tip number 4 is to emphasize, I can't emphasize this enough, but try to live by this motto, okay? Copper economy and damage is king in this game, all right? So copper economy, why is that important? Well, in higher difficulties, this is much more important than lower difficulties. I'm going to keep saying that. Lower difficulties, a lot of these tips don't really matter. The game really carries you, as well as the bots. They almost make you invincible. But if you're going to try to play this game serious on Nightmare No Hope, these are mottos that you really have to live by. Copper economy really carries the team, because not only of whenever you're in a safe room, you need to be able to buy healing items to patch up the team. You need to be able to stock up on pipe bombs for high intense situations. You need to buy flash grenades for bosses, which goes into my next point. You need to be able to afford the team upgrades. Team upgrades really carry your guys' team forward. You're gonna have a really tough time. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you're gonna have a really, really tough time beating the game on higher difficulties without good team upgrades. So team offensive item upgrade, making the pipe bombs last longer, making frag grenades deal more damage, and etc. Defensive item upgrades like healing items, having your med kits heal more trauma, having your pain meds do more, etc. And quick item upgrade, having your toolkits have more reuse chance. So you're spending less money trying to get in the tool room because you might get a reuse, and then guess what? You can use that same toolkit on the first aid cabinet and get an extra life back and heal more trauma for your team. So it's about being more efficient. There are some levels like T5 and the diner where purple or blue razor wire really comes in clutch. So these team upgrades really help carry your team, guys, and you can't afford those on higher difficulties unless you're really good at the game and you can get the secondary objectives every fucking time. But let's not kid ourselves, guys. Unless you're like the top 1% of Back for Blood players, you're gonna set off the birds occasionally. You're going to fucking miss the objectives. You're not gonna find the specimen container. Somebody's gonna go down. Unless you're the top 1%, you know, the fucking sweats, you're going to fuck up the secondary objectives pretty much half the time. So having good copper economy is essential. And as far as having damage, it kind of ties into the same thing, right? So you don't want to build your whole team around just tankiness and healing, especially on No Hope, because a lot of shit will one-shot you regardless of how much health you have. You can have 300 health and a fucking monstrous bruiser is still going to down your ass in one hit. It really doesn't matter. The way to survive in this game is building up a shit ton of damage and taking out threats before they get even close to you. Not to mention, if you don't build damage, you're gonna have a fucking nightmare of a time taking down bosses. And it's gonna be an endless slog, especially on breakers where the fucking radius gets smaller and smaller. If your whole team is a bunch of melee tanks and one healer, you're not fucking winning that one, I'm sorry. Unless your team gets really lucky, gets really fucking lucky with hitting the weak spots and everything, you're gonna have a horrible time. So, that kind of ties into our fifth and final point, having enough damage. Flash grenades. If you're really struggling to take out bosses, I highly implore you to always have a flash grenade ready in your team. So some of you might not really think that this is a useful item. You might take the frag grenade and the Molotov over this because all right, you look at flash grenade, okay, it stuns the enemy for a few seconds, but it doesn't do any damage. And then once they get out of their stun, essentially nothing's happened. Well, you're right in that regard. But flash grenades give you a very vital window of opportunity to burst DPS down a boss. Something that frag grenades and Molotovs cannot do for you. Frag grenades are nice, but they only provide a pretty decent small burst of damage and then it's over. They don't stun the enemy usually. The breaker will still lunge at your ass. It doesn't really do anything to stop that tank. I'm thinking this is Left 4 Dead. To stop that bruiser or ogre from fucking up your team. Flash grenades do that. You throw it at the ogre, and for 6 seconds for the base white flash grenade, the ogre will take 15% increased damage from the whole team. And it'll be helpless for 6 seconds. And this plays into why you want team upgrades. I forget the exact numbers, but as you're leveling up offensive item upgrade, that flash grenade will now last 8 seconds, or last 10 seconds, 12 seconds. And now your window of opportunity is getting wider, and I do believe the damage debuff gets higher as well. I think it goes up to 25%. I'm not exactly, I can't exactly recall, but it gets higher as well. So, if you're having trouble with bosses, do yourself a favor and always carry a flash grenade in your inventory. You will notice the difference. Coordinate with your team and say, hey, I'm going to flash the ogre in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1... go. And then everybody on your team focuses on that ogre and you will notice a huge difference in your damage and you'll be able to take out bosses a lot faster. So trick number 1, something you might not have known about. If you have a bot on your team, in this case Walker has a toolkit in his inventory, if you ping a tool room, the bot will actually open up the tool room for you and it will keep the toolkit. Now this only works up to like 2 or 3 times max per run. I think the developers knew that this would be a little OP if you had one bot on your team and they just constantly used a toolkit. So this only works at most 3 times during a run. But this is still a useful thing to know if you're short a toolkit and the bot, get that out of my face, Walker. If you're short a toolkit, the tool room's right there, and for some reason the bot has a toolkit. So something to keep in mind. All right, guys. So tip number, what was it? Tip number 2? Yep. Tip number 2. So as you guys know, many of you guys know if you watched my doc video, temporary health negates 100% of trauma damage that you would have taken from hit. But not something many of you may know is that when you open up the warp chest, there is a chance for you to get like a corruption card that instantly gives the whole team trauma. Well, one way you can negate this is obviously by popping pain meds. And let's see if we get that card. Chronic injuries, trauma resistance, and damage resistance. Okay, so we didn't get that specific corruption card, but there is one when you open up a chest that just gives your whole team flat trauma, like 15 or whatever trauma. So some way that you can avoid that is to give your whole team a little bit of temp health before you open up the box, and you should be safe to open it up and avoid that instant trauma. All right, guys, so tip number 3. I'm sure we've come across this, all of us at one point or another, is a locked door, not an alarm door. So this is the same regardless if it's an alarm door or not, but this is perfect to showcase it so the written don't break it down. So the way you can tell if a door is locked and you can't open it, you can't press X, it only says press right stick to destroy, is if there's a little deadbolt right above the door handle. Most of the doors in the game don't have this, like this one. I can just open it up. But if it has the deadbolt you can visibly see, you know that you're going to have to shoot that door in order to get it open. Or use a toolkit, but that's a horrible waste of a toolkit. Unless it's like the last door and it's the secondary objective, then it's okay. But don't use a toolkit, guys. So that's a way to know if the door is locked, especially if you're making a mad dash to the end of the level. There's a door right in front of you, and you're like, oh god, is that going to be locked or not? Just start pre-shooting it before you even get there if you can see that there's a deadbolt. It'll save you time, and it might even save your life. So that's tip number 3. All right, so tip number 4, if you're playing a character like Hoffman that has Pinata in their deck, or just Hoffman's passive, Hoffman has a chance to find ammo, offensive accessory, or whenever he kills a Ridden. Gas tanks and propane tanks actually count as offensive accessories, so it will proc cards like Pinata, and it will proc things like Pyro, obviously. So, and if you're shooting a propane tank, that will take into account things like bomb squad and offensive accessory damage. So throwing a propane tank at a breaker, the one that has a bunch of accessory damage in their kit should be shooting the propane bottle, and then it'll get more damage. Same thing right now. So let's go ahead and test that. I'm going to set off this alarm. I'm going to throw this gas tank right here. Just shoot it, and hopefully it spawns some goodies for us. Not really spawning anything for us right now. But I did get the temporary health from Pyro. Oh, there we go. There's a Molotov right there. So I'm not sure if that's Hoffman's passive or Pinata, but I can tell you for a fact that Pinata does for sure proc when you're shooting an accessory, shooting a propane tank or a gasoline tank, and it kills a Ridden. I can promise you that, and it's a nice thing to know in case you're ever in that situation where you have an opportune time to throw a gas tank in a hallway, have Hoffman shoot it, and it'll do more damage. It'll have the chance to spawn more offensive items. It's just something good to know that it counts as an offensive item to accessory. All right, and to round it off for tip number 5, or not tip, trick number 5, I'm sure we've all come across this. There's a police car. Well, not like this. The window shot out. But we've come across a police car. There's goodies inside. But we don't want to set it off and break the window, because then the alarm will go. We'll lose Silence is Golden as the secondary objective. And we'll have a horde on top of us. So something that you can do is get... Oh, there's birds right there. Okay, this will be a little harder. Get a good distance away from the car. I don't know the exact distance that you have to be, but right here should suffice. So this is what? 30 meters? So you're going to be very careful about this. You're going to line up the shot to where it shoots out the window, but it doesn't shoot the frame at all. See right there, there was a hit marker, but the alarm did not go off. So, oh, Okay, let's try that again. Error. Let's try that again. Maybe it needs more than one bullet. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, yeah, it does need more than one bullet if you're using a low damage weapon like an SMG. Okay, so we shot out the window. We can grab the goodies inside. You can notice the alarm is still active. And we got all the goodies. We didn't set off the alarm. Silence is golden. You're not fucking up your objectives. So probably between 25 to 30 meters, you'll be safe. And yeah, just use this on secondary objectives where you don't want to set off any hazards or you just don't want to set off the horde at all. A little trick to know. So that is rounding off the tricks that I've figured out in Back 4 Blood. Now let's go ahead and move on to hidden mechanics and synergies. All right, guys, this is the third part of the video, the juicy bits for the min-maxers like me, and the part where experienced players, you know, people that have been playing this game since launch or maybe 6 months to a year, this is the part of the video where they will probably discover something new, hopefully. So let's go ahead and get into it. So number 1 on this list, hidden mechanics and synergies, movement speed and sprint speed. Now, this is something that probably some of you may know, but it's not explicitly stated, and it was in a patch like last year ago. So some people still may not know about it, or maybe even returning players that are probably going to come back to the game, hopefully. So sprint speed and movement speed, they used to be the same thing. So let's go ahead and look at cross trainers here. It gives 3% movement speed. So movement speed is just the speed at which you're strafing without sprinting. So right now, forward, back, left, right, these are all factored into your movement speed. Now, sprint speed is something totally different. Sprint speed, let's go ahead and go to something like dash, which gives 5% sprint speed. Sprint speed is when I'm actually draining my stamina bar and see I'm in a full sprint, but movement speed does not factor into this, and vice versa. They don't affect each other. So it used to be that way when the game first released, but then speedrunners broke the fucking game and they had to do something about it. So ever since then, those two things have been separated and now they're their own specific thing. So some of you may know that, but it's something that returning players or new players may not know. So number 2 on this list, reload speed. So reload speed, I covered this in my Shoddy to Hottie build, my Stelios Kontos Big Brother Walker and Tala build for damage. So reload speed has a hidden mechanic where it actually affects how fast some weapons in the game will fire, including bows too. So it actually determines how fast you can bring back and draw the string back and fire another arrow. Weapons that reload speed affects are bolt action snipers like the Phoenix and Barrett, lever action revolvers like the 357 Magnum, and all the shotguns except the AA-12. So right here, shotguns. Reload speed actually determines how fast you can not only reload another shell, but how fast you can cock that fucking chamber back and fire another shell. This also affects on the 357 Magnum. It's the same exact thing, as well as snipers. So it has that dual advantage of not only increasing your reload speed, but reload speed also increases your DPS with some weapons. So that's a little hidden mechanic that not many people know about, but keep that in mind if you are a fan of these type of weapons. All right, so number 3 on this list, something that many of you may not know if you're a damage kind of person and you build lots of damage cards. There are several different categories in which your damage is calculated in the end result. There are a few cards in the game that are multiplicative damage, meaning when your damage is calculated, it takes into account certain cards that just increase your damage by a flat amount, like Shell Carrier down here. It gives 10% damage to shotguns. What that really means is Shell Carrier is additive. So a lot of the gun damage cards are additive. So let's say your gun damage starts at 100%, so 100, right? So let's simplify this. 100%, 100, plus 10% shotgun damage, but because the gun damage cards are additive, not multiplicative, it's just a flat 10 value. Healing works the same way, where it's just a flat value that gets added every time. So 10% gun damage isn't really 10%, it's just a flat plus 10. Same thing with combat training and large cal rounds. Anything that says bullet damage or melee damage works the same way, it's additive. But there's a few cards in the game, 11 of them over here to be specific. I think I got them all. These cards, if you want to take a look at them real quick, all of these cards are cards in the game that multiply your damage multiplicatively, not additively. So, an example being, let's say you got your assault rifle damage. I don't think you could do this, but for experiment's sake, let's say you got your gun damage up to 200% or just 200 because it's additive. Well, glass cannon, it gives 25% damage. But because you raised the initial value from 100 to 200, that 25% actually means 50%. So, multiplicative damage cards are very valuable for this specific reason. I believe they are calculated in your damage after any additive effects. I'm not 100% sure on this because testing this is extremely difficult and we don't have statty.net anymore to test shit like this. And the firing range doesn't allow you to use custom decks. I don't fucking know why, because it would make this a lot easier, but I'm not going to spend fucking 30 hours trying to test all this shit when I'm trying to get killed by Ridden and everything. It just sounds like a nightmare. So, but as far as I know this for sure, these cards are multiplicative damage, meaning they have a greater effect based on how much damage you already have in your kit. Walker's passive is a character that has this built into him. So let me move. Walker, he gains 10% flat damage. So he gets that effect as well, but it's built into his kit, which is why Walker is one of the best DPS classes in the game, right behind Tala. So let's go ahead and move my happy ass back. So, and another thing to note about these cards, let me go back to the cards. Another thing to note about these cards, these multiplicative damage cards, they affect everything you do. So whether it be gun damage, melee damage, accessory damage, whatever it is, even Tala's bleed's affected by all this too. So everything you do is going to be doing more damage. That's why I absolutely love cards like Ammo for All, because they have universal use. They're just universally great in almost any deck. And they're multiplicative, just fucking chef's kiss. So that is the next tip. Let's move on to the next one. All right, number 4 on the list. As many of you guys know, if you're a Doc main, Doc's free bandages are affected by healing efficiency, but they are also affected by any cards in her deck that would normally affect regular medical accessories. So let's go ahead and move myself back over here. Let's go ahead and look at my Doc build. Doc. So Doc's free heal that she gets once per level for every cleaner on her team, so 3 free bandages essentially. They are affected by healing efficiency and specific cards that would have activated for a medical accessory. So antibiotic ointment, you're going to get that 20 temporary health. Medical expert and field surgeon, you're going to get that trauma healing, as well as the overhealing that you could have gotten from well rested. And then let's scroll over. There's also cards like poultice and group therapy that also proc from Doc's free heal. So just think of it exactly as a free bandage. So something that many of you may not know, most Doc mains do if they've been playing this game for long enough, but just keep that in mind. Doc's free bandages, Doc's free heal is essentially 1-to-1 a free bandage. All right, it activated T5 when I hit my hotkey to resume the recording. Anyway, so number 5 on this list, when you're playing Tala, the beautiful bitch that she is, Tala, if you didn't already know, pretty much anything that she does, that does damage will create stacks of bleed damage. So even bashing, even though it does only like 1 or 2 points of damage, will start stacking these bleed stacks on top of the enemy. But what you didn't know is that there are some gadgets in the game that will actually start proccing that bleed damage and start building up those stacks of bleed. So things like Sonic Disruptor, which you wouldn't think does it, but Sonic Disruptor, it does heavy stumble damage, but it does like 1 or 2 points of damage. It's not much, but it's enough to proc Tala's bleed. Second is Expired T5. Many of you probably do know this. Expired T5 not only procs the flame damage, but it starts building up those bleed stacks. And Experimental Stun Gun. Experimental Stun Gun, you activate it, and then you jet out, you bash, and then it creates this Darth Sidious freaking lightning streak of death going across, and sometimes it's enough to kill people, but it will also proc the bleed damage. So let's go ahead and test this out. So let's go ahead and do the ultrasonic wound therapy, or not the wound therapy, the, what was it called? Sonic Disruptor. Let's go ahead and try the Sonic Disruptor on these guys. So that should be killing them, actually. I hit stop recording. I hit stop. All right, it activated my recording when I hit that expire T5. But anyway, so number 5 on this list is Tala. Something you may not have known about her. Her bleed that comes from her passive. So anything that Tala does that's offensive in any way will start building up stacks of bleed. But what you might not have known is that this actually has interactions with a few cards in the game that you might not have thought it would have. So cards like Sonic Disruptor, most of the gadget cards like Sonic Disruptor, which emit a pulse that deals stumble damage, procs Tala's bleed. You wouldn't think that it does, but it does. Expire T5, which jets out the AoE of fire, that starts building up stacks of bleed, as well as Experimental Stun Gun. So Experimental Stun Gun, you activate it, and after a second or two, it's ready, and then you go out and punch, and you jet out this Emperor Palpatine freaking lightning cone of death, and it's pretty cool to watch. Sometimes it can kill the Ridden, but it starts building up those stacks of bleed. So let's go ahead and stop talking about it and start showing it. So let's go ahead and try the Sonic Disruptor. All right, so, okay, he died right outright. Yeah, he died too. It's knocking them down, and it's building up the stacks of bleed. Admittedly, it doesn't do that much damage, but hey, we're here to test stuff out and see what kind of synergies we can do. Let's go try it with a larger group of enemies. Okay, here we go. Sonic Disruptor. They're all bleeding, and now they're dead. Expire T5 does the exact same thing. Admittedly, most of these enemies are going to die from the flame damage, but if we can actually, there we go, Stinger. So he's going to be burning from the flame damage and the bleed damage. So 4.6, 4.6, blah, blah, blah. Now let's go ahead and try the Experimental Stun Gun. If we can get it to go. There we go. Killed all those suckers. And it started proccing. Oh my god, look at all those bleed ticks. All right. And this actually factors in topic number 6, or number 6 on this list, which is Experimental Stun Gun, which is this item I just used, interacts with cards in your deck like Pinata. So let's see if we can get it to proc again. Find a horde. Okay, let's find. No. There we go. He died from that. Oh, there we go. See? It spawned that flash grenade and the bandage. So expired T5, Experimental Stun Gun, because I have the card Pinata in my deck right here. Let me move my happy ass out of the way so you can look. Pinata, killing a Ridden with an accessory has a 10% chance to drop an accessory. For some reason, Experimental Stun Gun is the only gadget that works this way. Expire T5 and none of the other gadgets work this way, but for some reason, the Stun Gun does. So you can essentially have a Stun Gun that does offensive damage and has the potential to spawn items, which is very useful with Tala. So that is 5 and 6 on this list. Let's go ahead and go to number 7. All right, number 7 on this list, the card Out With A Bang. Some of you, this might seem self-explanatory, but some may not know this. As you know, when Out With A Bang, when someone goes down or dies, they drop an active pipe bomb. Now, this pipe bomb, not only does it count as an accessory, but it can proc other cards in your deck like Pinata, and with Hoffman, it just has added value. So you go down as Hoffman, all right, not only does the pipe bomb kill all the Ridden around you, it has a chance of dropping an offensive accessory or ammo because you're Hoffman, but because it's technically an offensive accessory as a pipe bomb, and you have Pinata in your deck, you can potentially spawn even more items. So when you're playing as Hoffman, in the event that you do go down Out With A Bang, it does technically count as a regular pipe bomb. So keep that in mind if you're playing Hoffman and you go for that pipe bomb play style. Excuse me. You might get a lot of use out of Out With A Bang. So That is tip number 7. All right, number 8 on the list of hidden mechanics and card synergies. So let's say you are an expired T5 lover. You ride or die for this card, right? But you want to make the damage of this card go up even higher. There's not many cards in the game that do this, but I can tell you exactly which ones do. All of the percentage damage multiplayer cards right here that we covered not too long ago, all of these will increase the damage of T5 as well as Pyro. And because expired T5, it does 20 fire damage to weak spots and then 1 damage per second to those weak spots. It counts, it is affected by weak spot multipliers. So if you want to increase T5, you can build not only these damage cards, but weak spot damage cards as well. So Ridden Slayer, Reckless, Killer's Instinct, Knowledge is Power, not Hazmat Specialist. I don't know why that's here, but and it pairs really well with Sadistic right here. So let me move out of the way so you can see it. So Sadistic, each precision kill gives you 5% increased weak spot damage for 10 seconds. So you pop this when you're getting surrounded. You'll get 5 or 6 stacks of this right away. And then as you're moving, hopefully you kill a few more Ridden, and then you can get up to 10 stacks with this, ultimately giving you up to 50% weak spot damage, which is huge. So if you really want to bring T5 back to life, here are all the damage cards that affect it, as well as being affected by weak spot damage. These are the only ways you can increase the damage of expired T5. As well as, let's go back and look. No, don't save. Walker's passive. Walker has a flat 10% damage increase to everything he does. Oh, and Jim. I almost forgot about Jim. And Jim. Jim is also a good option if you want to use T5, because precision kills, granted, or think about it, expired T5 does damage to weak spots. You're going to be getting stacks of this. Gives 2.5% stacking damage. So Jim has a higher cap, whereas Walker just gets a nice flat amount right off the bat. So whoever you want to play, this is how you're going to maximize expired T5 if you really want to bring out the most bang for your buck. So that is number 8 on our list. Let's go ahead and go to number 9. Okay, number 9 on our list of hidden mechanics and synergies. That is some cards that give some kind of healing benefit, whether it be temporary health or just flat healing, do not scale with healing efficiency. All 6 of those cards are right here. So Fire in the Hole, throw an item, get 20 temp health. Amped Up, Horde is called, get 20 health. Poultice, using a medical accessory, 20 health over 30 seconds. Inspiring Sacrifice, someone goes down, 20 health. And Safe Room Recovery and Fresh Bandage. So whenever you get to a safe room, you get a bunch of trauma heal as well as regular health. All 6 of these cards are not affected by healing efficiency whatsoever. So if you're building healing efficiency around these cards thinking you're improving them, stop right now, because you're not getting any benefit whatsoever. But there's also an additional hidden mechanic to these as well that is kind of to your favor. There is a corruption card in the game called Pure Chaos, which is a big fucking dick in your ass if you're trying to heal your team. It gives you a negative 50% healing efficiency for the whole team. So these cards can actually get you out of that bind. So Amped Up and Poultice are not affected by healing efficiency, meaning they get their normal value regardless of if Pure Chaos is on or not. So these cards can actually be both a benefit and a minus, whether or not you're speccing for them or whatever or what have you. So just keep that in mind. They're not affected by healing efficiency, so you can't boost them, but that also means they can't be negated whatsoever. So keep that in mind for higher difficulties. And number 10 on our list is a legendary weapon called the Witness Sniper Rifle that you can get inside the warped boxes throughout the level. So if you've ever used this weapon, you probably thought the same thing as me. Oh boy, the Witness Sniper Rifle. Whenever you shoot an enemy, it automatically becomes pinged, and I can just pair this with the card. Okay, let's go find it real quick. I can just pair this with the card Marked for Death, right? Because Marked for Death, mutations you ping are highlighted and your team deals 10% increased damage. If you don't know, the Witness Sniper Rifle, when you shoot something, it automatically becomes highlighted. The same effect as it would be if you manually ping it like this. It's that same effect, that same red outline. It doesn't work that way. For some whatever fucking reason, you still have to manually ping whatever ridden you're shooting at to get to that big bonus from Marked for Death, as well as the bonus from the Witness Sniper. So if you want to mix these two damage bonuses, don't go being lazy thinking, oh, I'll just fucking shoot the enemy and I don't gotta ping it at all. No, then you're still losing the benefit of Marked for Death. I thought the exact same too. It doesn't make any sense why it wouldn't work that way. That's the whole point of that sniper rifle, is you shoot something, it becomes pinged, the whole team can see it. It doesn't make any sense why it doesn't work that way. I'm fucking rambling because I'm pissed off about this, but I have video proof showing that this is the case, that when you shoot an enemy, it applies the damage debuff from the Witness Sniper, but not from Marked for Death. You have to ping it a second time manually to get that benefit of Marked for Death. So that is tip number 10. All right, guys, so number 11 on this list, the card Stealthy Passage. If you didn't already know, it allows disarming of door alarms, birds, and all sorts of things that are gonna set off cars and that are gonna set off hordes. But what you might not have known is that a few patches ago, this was made to where you can actually use it to disarm bear traps and the cultist trip mines. So let's go ahead and use it on the birds. Hopefully those ridden don't there. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and kill this horde real quick. Sometimes it's a little finicky when it comes to the birds. You gotta kind of baby it and be very careful. Okay, let's go ahead and try that again. So coming up to this bear trap, it'll give you the option to disarm it. This wasn't always possible, and it was made possible 1 or 2 patches ago. There we go, and you can pick it up now. My slot is disabled because I'm using Stealthy Passage, but now somebody on the team can pick up the bear trap. This also works for the cultist trip mines. There we go. You got to aim at the post. So you can imagine, and you get, I should mention, you get 25 copper every time for the whole team. So you can imagine on levels that have lots of cultists, you're going to get lots of copper, and it's going to be a really great card to have. All right, guys, so number 12 on our list is, in case you come across the corruption card, Cost of Avarice, or you find a warped chest with a golden pipe, which also spawns the warped copper piles, make sure whoever is on your team with money grubbers is the one that picks up those warped copper piles. Why? Because warped copper only gives copper to the person picking it up. So whenever, the way money grubbers work is when anyone on your team picks up copper, because normally when you pick up copper, it gives 25, let's say, to the whole team. But warped copper piles only give it to the one that picks it up. So you're not going to get any benefit of money grubbers stacking that 3, 6, 9, 12 if someone else picks up that warped copper pile. So if you have money grubbers on your team, make sure you are the one picking up the warped copper piles, because you're going to get exponentially more copper. And you're going to miss out on a lot of copper if you let someone else on your team pick up that warped copper. So even if somebody throws the golden pipe and they don't have money grubbers, you say, hold up, I'll pick it up for you. I'll give you your copper back, but let me pick it up and I'll get a lot more copper in the long run. So something to know. All right, number 13 on hidden mechanics / synergies is Holly's passive, where whenever she kills a ridden, she gets 1 health. This is in fact affected by healing efficiency. So many of you that play Holly probably already know this, but some of you that were thinking about trying out the character or have never played her before, it's good to know that if you have healing efficiency cards in your deck, or if you find one on the map, it's not a wasted card to buy this on Holly, because it actually will benefit her and get more health whenever she kills a ridden. Clocking in at number 14 on the list of hidden synergies and hidden mechanics and all that good shit, Charisse, as you know, Charisse, her main gimmick is armor, right? So it's stated in her player card here that whenever you shoot an armor piece off of a ridden, it has a chance of becoming armor that you could pick up, and that'll negate 1 big burst of damage. But what it's not stated in her character card is that when Charisse is on your team, ammo plates will spawn in the safe boxes, not safe boxes, the supply boxes scattered throughout the map. So this is one of the Charisse is the only way that armor will naturally spawn in the world. You have to have her in her team. It's not stated in her character card. Ooh, just bumped my mic a little bit. It's not stated in her character card, but it is something to note. Now clocking in at the last but not the least, let's go ahead and go to campaign decks. The card, Charitable Soul. Now, some of you that are doc mains may know this, but some that don't. Charitable Soul does not apply trauma healing or any other effects in your deck. It's not like Doc's free heal, where if you use a bandage, you get to free heal a bunch of trauma. So an example is a purple med kit, right? A purple med kit heals 15 trauma. Theoretically, using Charitable Soul, I should be able to heal someone and get 7.5 trauma healed on myself. It does not work that way. You don't get any benefits. You don't get any temp health from antibiotic ointment. You don't get any trauma healing from field surgeon or medical professional. You don't get nothing. It's like Willy Wonka. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, Sir Charitable Soul. So if you're thinking about using Charitable Soul, just keep in mind it only heals regular health. Doesn't provide any other benefit. It doesn't synergize with anything really. So keep that thoroughly in mind. So that is my 15 hidden mechanics and synergies, my 5 tips and tricks each. So clocking in at 25 things that I hope you learned something that is for new players, for returning players. I hope regardless of your experience level that you learned something from this video today. Keep tuned for my video that'll be coming out tomorrow, hopefully. It's a status update about Back 4 Blood and my life in general and the future of this channel. So hopefully that video comes out soon and it doesn't get corrupted like this one got 3 fucking times. I had to re-record this. So I'm a very happy boy today having to finally have this finished product come out. So those of you that are still watching my channel for the Back 4 Blood content, I really appreciate you. Those of you that have been through here day one, I really appreciate every single one of you. I never expected my channel to get any subscribers, let alone over 300. So I'm very happy about that. I had no expectations. So I appreciate all of you. Hope you learned something. Without further ado, catch you on the next one.